Welcome, investigator. Evil is on the rise. Crime is escalating. Our mission is to eliminate the crime by exposing evil, examine why it manifests, and highlight the brave souls that confront it every day. Join us as we work together to bring justice to every victim. Welcome to All Things Crime. Here's your host, Jared Bradley.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's talk about like an analogy here. Baseball. Everybody loves the sport, right? So we watch it and everything else. The hidden ball trick, okay, is a little swarmy, but that's the rule. You can't step off the base if the guy has the ball, and if he hit the ball and he tags you, you're out. And nobody likes looking foolish on something like that, but that's the rule. We understand that. Here's the problem. What if you're allowed to take a baseball and put it in your pocket and then take it out and you had a second baseball and then the first baseman or the pitcher's hiding the ball and he doesn't do it? Now you're cheating. Well, I think if the rule is that you can take a second baseball out there and nobody said you couldn't and the pitcher could do that during warm up, if everybody knows that, I think everybody's good with it. Do they like it? Maybe they resist it. And this is where the sheriff is coming from and everybody in law enforcement is coming from. And I think everybody is out there. But when they start playing games with the law and they don't tell you what the changes are, and all of a sudden you find out that this has been going on, and then let's take it a couple of steps further. Now you have people that have enriched themselves with this, or they're getting a benefit, or they're getting in the front of the line, or they don't register their car. They're saving enormous amount, or they don't have to take their workshop and go through the process. They just build it on the back over here and somebody rubber stamps it and pushes it on through. Who's going to be happy about that? And who's going to be the afflicted party on this, the aggrieved party? Who's going to be the person that's going to be angry about? Well, everybody's going to be, because now it becomes clear. It comes into focus that the entire thing is a sham out here. And this is what's happening over here. So be fair about it. Tell the sheriff what's going on. He's got a very good position on this, because how do you track these people? If you're going to say we're not going to track immigrants that come across the border, then that's fine. But there has to be other ways to do it. Then I don't know what else you can do from that, but at least you know. But when you sit there and you try to do something and you try to have an accountability for people based on car registration, and it's nonsense. This is what infuriates people, because they're tasked with it. In addition, they take that oath and they hold that very serious. Like I said, they're staying up late nights working this stuff, only to find out what you've been undermined by somebody who doesn't want to play by the rules, and throw out all the other stuff to find out. They're tasked with it. How happy would you be as a victim of that? You are Rachel's husband or family member to find out that somebody's operating and did this and they have no idea who it is. The person's in the wind. They may never uncover this person. Honestly, Jared, it's a miracle they ever found this guy. If he hadn't done that homicide down in El Salvador and he left his cell phone behind, he could have probably been in Los Angeles, Maryland, and gone. And tell me where I'm wrong on that. What else? So we have some phantom CODIS number. And this is my fear 10 months ago when we did this, is we have Los Angeles, we have Maryland over here. You have phantom CODIS entry. You can do a genetic genealogy workup all you want, and guess where it goes? Nowhere, because the folks are down in El Salvador. And they wouldn't even known to go to El Salvador to try and do it. Nobody's entered into GEDmatch or otherwise. So it could have been very easily that way. We're, I would say a miracle, or very lucky to have put this case down. I say we, because everybody across the country is working this and everybody's looking, and that adds to it, right? It adds to the entire effort that we had back in, when we first started having Most Wanted, and even the wanted bulletins going back to the Western days, and those police circulars. The public got involved in it, and it keeps that pressure up. That's millions of sets of eyes that are watching you. So kudos, for putting that pressure up, but very easily could have slipped through this.
No, everybody that has actually worked this case, whether they be, a web sleuth or an actual law enforcement, somebody analyzing the DNA, whatever you were doing, kudos to all of you. But that brings up one last thing that I want to talk about, Tom, and that is, think of the resources that were put together and put toward catching this guy. Millions and millions of dollars worth of investigations and manpower and, forensics testing and all of that kind of stuff that is put together to catch this guy that should never have been here. That's another part that, we think about how expensive, in the last 3-4 years, the average increase in our cost of living has risen 20%. So that means that $1, if you had $1 4 years ago, you now have 80 cents. And that, to me, that's just inflation, because, so much money is being spent. Well, part of that problem is we're also spending money on things that we shouldn't have to spend money on, like trying to catch an illegal alien that's raped and murdered one of our citizens. And, a lot of that stuff, well, I mean, part of it is awesome, because here in the United States, if you break the law and you kill somebody or rape somebody, or really hurt somebody's and their family, we are going to catch you. And it doesn't matter how much we have to spend, what we have to do to catch you, whether it takes us 6 months or 40 years, we are eventually going to catch you. And that part of it, I love that part. It's our law enforcement officers do not give up on cases. Well, but at the same time, even though we're that dedicated to it, it also, that there's a cost to that. And it's a huge cost to the citizens. And again, that's all part of the standards that we agree to when we're part of our society. Is we're saying our rule of law and upholding that rule of law is so important that we're willing to dedicate millions and millions of dollars in order to get to it. Well, but there's a limit to how much we can actually do initially, or at one time. And the cost to the citizenry isn't just in the pain and suffering, but it's also in there's a financial cost to all of this. And we could go the financial cost of illegal immigration it's probably in the trillions of dollars. It's definitely in the billions. And that makes me just beyond sick as well. But regardless, let's take it all back down to Rachel Morin. Here we have a mother of 5. She's out just trying to take care of herself, out on a jog, on a run, on a walk, in a nice, peaceful, beautiful little park, a trail that's going through Maryland, which is a beautiful part of the country anyway. This guy jumps out behind some tree that's probably been waiting for her to come by. She's probably alone. There's nobody else on the trail. This guy is just a total predator, jumps out, like what you said, Tom, probably, approached her from behind, because more than likely she had headphones on, stuns her, drags her into a culvert, rapes her, and kills her. And then he flees like a coward and, the pathetic piece of garbage that he is. And for what? And all a guy that shouldn't even be here. Well,
yeah.
I hope Maryland really takes care of this guy. Not just put him away into a nice cushy prison where he gets 3 squares and a bed, and he's part of the El Salvadorian gang that's in part of the prison sentence. I mean, if Maryland doesn't actually really take care of this guy, this animal, then there is no justice for Rachel Morin.
I think here's the good news to end this on a high point. And historians that we are, both of us, and I do some of the film work, like I said, we're kind of at an impasse. I think we've hit a high water mark where what the general public is willing to tolerate. What gave way to a lot of the tumult of the 60s was shown up in film. So when you started to have like a revenge film like Death Wish, Charles Bronson, Dirty Harry was sort of reflective of what we're seeing in society back at that time. And they said, okay, enough's enough with this. We cannot have keep giving everything away, because this was an outcry, and this was the productions of the outcry. And this is what you're starting to see, and people are waking up to what's happening out here. You can't have police car chases that go on for 40 miles out in California, where the guy is jumping from car to car and they're afraid to shoot him and they're afraid to try to pit maneuver the car. You can't tell me in the greatest country in the world, where I live on the space coast of Florida and we're putting up a rocket twice a week. One just went up last night. I didn't even know it was going on. That's how often they're going up, that we can't shut down a car remotely by having a method to do that. We can't instruct people to stop in the roadway on on the interstates and put out a set of spikes that are going to stop a motorcycle before the poor kid who panics and runs. Let's put it in the best light possible for the victim. He's dead. The entire family's afflicted by this because he buys this machine that can go nearly 200 miles an hour. Or let's take a stolen car where they're damaging all sorts of property damage that everybody has to pay for, but more than likely they're going to kill somebody. And that's not counting the serious stuff about where they're shooting at police officers, or they usually, when somebody is doing that, and this is the drift that you get from that, is that formerly people would have a stolen car. Police look for stolen cars because the stolen car was indicative of other criminal activity. You steal a car to go do other criminal activity. Well, now everybody's running. So that's been watered down because they're like, well, I'll just run away from the police now. Why not? Well, now everybody's running from the police. And it becomes chaos out there. And you can't have that. The property damage, everything, the people are, the shootings are going to take place. And I heard it very, very well said when in one of the Patty Hearst documentaries, when they said you need to come out of that house in San Francisco. That meant sometime. They're going to come out sometime. In Los Angeles at the time, it says, we mean right now, come out of the house. Well, this was a very different place than San Francisco was at the time. And that's what led to that house being caught fire. And this is what you're having. That same analogy is taking place. So people don't know what to do and they're outraged and everybody is armed in these states. There's so much. So we're at a tipping point where something needs to change. And as you talked about, I think some of the voting blocks are going to change things dramatically. But I think the public is now aware of all this. We can't have car chases going over 100 miles an hour and slamming into people and things like that. There has to be something that's going to change on that.
Well, the bottom line is everybody that's listening to us right now, you need to get involved. And I'm not just talking, get yourself informed. I'm saying, whether it's your city council or your mayor or your congressman, you need to contact them. And if they're not doing, their number one job is to protect the United States citizens. It's to protect the people that they are, their constituents. The only way to protect them is to stop this madness. And if they're not part of that, then you need to vote them out. And that is my, again, I'm going to put this out there. That's my call to action. If you're listening to me right now, you have to get involved. We cannot sit back and let these so-called representatives in Washington, D.C., who are not representing us. I don't care what party they're from. If they are not actively working to protect the United States citizens, then they are not working for us. And we need to get rid of them. And you know what? It's Rachel Morin is, she is, it's amazing to me. I think the amount of anger that is stirring up under this and how many people are basically saying, okay, enough is enough. How many more illegal alien murder, rape stories are we going to read before this changes? And, I like you said, Tom, I think we've hit it pretty good because the number of people that are just fed up and the anger that is underlying all of this.
They've been lied to. The entire time. We play by the rules and everything else. Evil is going to live all around us, stuff like this. And we want to take the good people and keep them accountable and keep them from drifting to that. And we want to keep them educated in the best and keep them and tell them, no, we're not going to go that route. But the real bad people, the ones that I named before, we can't have that. And we have to have an accountability. So, you said voting. I'll put this challenge out. Educate yourself. Educate yourself on what these police are talking about. Don't just passively sit there and listen to crime stories out there. Everybody delve into those details that we're talking about over here. Those behavioral profiles that are out there with these people that are just off the scale, either psychotic off the scale or psychopathic. And the psychopathic ones are the real clever ones that have figured out how to work their way through the system. And they're going to see those things and evade them. They're going to take, and when you're able to see that slalom course that they're doing, you'll see why that person is just so nefarious, is so calculating in what they're doing. And when we walk this one back, you're going to find out that this is a very, very accomplished psychopath who's doing exactly what he wants with his, psychopath, evil, Funny to me that when somebody's psychopathic, they don't run around and do good deeds.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you can parse those two out. They become bad people. So yeah.
Well, and again, the ounce of prevention is what we need to focus on. And get, number one, be aware of your surroundings. You have to know who is around you. You cannot just blindly throw the headphones on and just think that you're safe, because you're not. And unfortunately, you're not. Even in small town America nowadays, there's like that girl. What, I can't remember the name of the poor girl that was murdered out in, I think it was Iowa. She was out just on a run, and again, another illegal alien just tracked her down and raped and murdered her. Well, so yeah, be aware of your surroundings, but folks, get involved. You know what? And we have to demand better. It's like, I do not want to ever have to take the law into my own hands, but if it means protecting my family, that's what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, you said before about illegal and she's out for a jog and stuff like this. This is what I was speaking about before, when these guys attack and they soon move to the other town. This was the golden age of serial killers or rapists that would do that. Is they were able to evade accountability by going from town to town, pre-DNA era, certainly the 1980s. So they would
yeah,
assault and attack a girl there, and then the police would do their logical follow-up, and then nobody's there because it's a worker who's doing small town trades, and he moves from that area right away and springs to another place and he's gone.
yeah.
And for him, it's a lot like deer hunting, but that's what does it for that person. That's what does it for that person. And those of
Well,
us
and
who have lived with it.
yeah, that brings up a good point, is that we didn't really hit very well. That this case was solved with genetic genealogy. Now, folks, if you really want to help, here's something else you can do right now. Get your DNA profile from either ancestry.com, 23andMe, and then opt in to have your DNA profile uploaded into a database called GEDmatch. GEDmatch is the DNA database that is searchable on a genetic way, a familial way, so that they can create the ancestral tree of whoever the perpetrator is. So anybody that hasn't been caught and is a convicted felon, and so their DNA is in the national FBI database called CODIS. Well, now you can actually contribute and you can help, because the more people that get into, like, there's like 2 million people in GEDmatch right now. So if you get your DNA database, your DNA profile uploaded into GEDmatch, you will contribute, you will help to solve future cases. And everybody needs to do that as well. I know we're all we're all freaked out saying, oh, I don't want my DNA to be in this, in anywhere where the government can track it. Trust me, they GEDmatch is different than the FBI database. Okay. And just because it's searchable, it doesn't mean that they're going to pin something on you. What that means is that your profile and your genetic makeup and your family tree is going to help contribute into solving cases. And you have to kind of go to some of these. It's called FIG, the Forensic Investigative Genetic Genealogy, and you can research on FIG to understand a little better of how the genetic, the familial DNA works, and how they're able to solve these cases, like how the Golden State Killer was finally caught. That's all based on FIG, and it's an amazing new investigative tool, but it requires a DNA database that's robust enough that you can actually trace people down to like what they did in El Salvador. So that, again, that's another call to action. Just I know some people just don't understand, so they're all freaked out. They don't want to give the government any more information, but this isn't a government database. GEDmatch is it's a private database, but law enforcement is able to search it and create these profiles, and that's how this guy was caught. So Rachel Morin's killer even with all the other evidence that's, you know, the cell phone data and all that kind of stuff that they had, again, the fig was ultimately how they tracked this guy down. So there's another way you can help is get your DNA into GEDmatch. So
right. You go back to the 1980s, you had blood typing, pre-DNA. I know that sounds like a million years ago, but that's what it was, and why these unsolved. But that's how things were done. But that's why how critical it is that the searches, those databases be developed.
All good stuff, man. So hey, you know what, Tom? Let's we may do an update on this if more information comes out about, you know, Rachel's killer. But geez, it seems like every day we have new cases to talk about, and I, as sad as it is, so many of them are illegal aliens that are coming across here, and they have ill intent, and they just figure, you know, there's no law, they can do whatever they want. They're freaking animals, and you know, these people are just, especially this guy. You know, if he's more than willing to commit a murder in his own country, then coming to the United States, it's just we're just you know, it's like a slaughterhouse up here. It's just a bunch of sheep running around. They just look at us like, you know, we're just this money pile,
Right.
that, and all of our children and women are open for the taking. And, you know, here you go, you know, we're not going to do anything about it. Well, that has to stop. So, all right, brother, appreciate you.
Yep.
Hope you, now that we've discussed this in such a dramatic way, man, I appreciate you and appreciate everybody out there. Again, hey, everybody, share this story, get the word out. You know, we've had a number of call to actions, and I hope everybody adheres to those, and, you know, get involved. You know, get your DNA in GEDmatch, call your congressman and your mayor and everybody, and make sure that, you know, the people have that are doing these investigations have the resources they need, because people like Rachel Morin and her family, they deserve justice. And you, meaning, you know, if you're listening or watching, you deserve to be safe, and you deserve to have a government that actually protects you and protects what you've worked so hard for. So take care, everybody. We will talk at you later.
Thanks for joining us. Your attention today brings us one step closer to exposing and eliminating the evil that brings crime to our communities. Hit subscribe and share this episode. Together, we will bring justice to every victim.